today I wanted to share with you my 5 best tips for lining mature eyes. Now, lining my eyes is something that I have always struggled with. It seems like the greatest challenge in my beauty routine. It's something that I've really struggled to sort of perfect over the years. I definitely still haven't perfected it. I'm not an expert, but I have learned a few things that have really helped me sort of have more good eyeliner days than bad. My eyes have always been somewhat hooded, even when I was younger, and now in the last few years I've noticed I've lost a lot of elasticity in my eyes. So there's a few tips that I wanted to share with you that have really helped me along the way. So let's just dive right in and get started. Okay, so my first tip is something that I actually shared with you in one of my more recent videos, and that is using the right eyeliner brush. For me, the best brush that I have found by far is this Grumbacher number 794. This is a 1/4 inch angle shader I picked up from the craft store. It's about $5.99 at full retail price, but with a Hobby Lobby coupon, which is where I like to shop, I'm able to get this brush for about $3.50 plus tax. I won't go into all the details about the brush because I did cover that in that video, so I will link to that below. But it definitely, for me, is the best choice because it holds its firmness, which is really important when you're trying to line mature lids, especially when they've lost elasticity. If you have a brush that doesn't hold its firmness, you've got your lids that are sort of creping and bunching, and then the brush is bending, and those just aren't a good combination for mature eyes. So this one has worked out really well for me, and even though it holds its firmness, it's not pokey, it doesn't hurt my lids, and it doesn't, cause any irritation or anything like that. It's very soft yet firm. Okay, so moving on to my second tip. My second tip is to avoid eyeliner pencils and instead go with either a gel liner or a matte shadow. Now for me, a matte eyeshadow is the absolute best option. I have a couple different ones that I wanted to share with you. My favorite has to be one from Bobbi Brown, and this is Bobbi Brown Espresso, which is this color here. It's a very deep, dark, pigmented black brown. To me, black is a little bit too harsh on my eyes, so I do prefer a black brown. And this Bobbi Brown shadow is really densely pigmented, and it goes really well as an eyeliner, also for adding some definition in the outer corners of your eyes. Another option that you may already have in your collection is one from Laura Mercier, and this is this color right here. This is Espresso Bean. You can probably tell already this is very similar to the Bobbi Brown eyeshadow, so I'll put those two together here. So you can see that one's there on the end. They are very, very similar. I think the Laura Mercier might have a touch more gray to it, but either one is really good. So if I'm using this palette, I'll just use the Espresso Bean with it. If I'm wearing another eyeshadow look, I usually reach for the Bobbi Brown one first. Now the next tip that I wanted to share with you is to stamp your liner on the lid. And what I mean by that is when I'm working with especially a shadow powder, I just take my brush, I press it into the powder and then stamp it along my lash line. You don't want to press and pull or drag that along. To me, when you do that, the lids are bunching up toward the end, especially on my crepey lids. So I'm pushing along and then my eyeshadow is bunching up in the corner and I'm not getting that straight, clean, crisp line. So I'd like to take the shadow, get it on my brush, tap off the excess, and then just gently press along my lash line everywhere I want the shadow to be. I can usually do this in one line, but a lot of times I will go back and add a second coat. The reason why I do this is I've definitely noticed with my hooded eyes that sometimes my hood will actually come down over my liner area and pull some of the liner away. Now, one way that you can avoid that is to use an eye primer, but sometimes I still do find that the shadows here in the crease will still come down over and sort of diffuse that line a little bit and make it not quite look as sharp and distinct as I would like for it to. So just a couple coats will do, but just press that in gently. You don't have to press too hard, especially when working with a really good quality shadow. And that's another reason I really enjoy working with the Bobbi Brown or Laura Mercier. Probably MAC would be a good choice as well. But just a nice, rich, densely pigmented matte shadow works well with this method. Now, tip number 4 is don't tug at your eyes to place your liner. If you're pulling outward, especially on your lines, you can see that really distorts the shape of your eyelid. So you're pulling out, placing the shadow or liner where you think it should be, then you're letting go, and the line goes forward, bunches back in together, and it's not nearly as thin and crisp as you thought it was. So don't distort your eye shape by pulling and creating a line that's not going to be straight once the eye bounces back. If you have to get to your lash line because maybe you do have a hooded eye, just gently pull here either right at your eyebrow or just above so that you can access that area. This way it doesn't distort the shape of your eye, but it gives you better access to your lash line. So you can see I'm able to just go in here, whereas if I'm looking like this, my hood's coming down, I can't really see it. But if I just lift up gently, my eye maintains its shape, but I can get into that area to really stamp in that shadow. And fifth and my final tip for you is to not look directly on into the mirror when you're applying your liner. What I have found is that the eye can be very sensitive, as we all know, and when I'm trying to press in the liner along my lash line, if I press my lid into that pupil area, it causes me to blink, which then creates a mess on my eye because my liner's going everywhere. So I have found that if the mirror is here and I turn my head to the side and I do my liner like this, I have a lot better time getting it exactly where I want without creating any sensitivity or blinking with my eye. And this is especially helpful in the inner area, which for me is the most sensitive part of my eye. So I will just turn to either the right or the left and stamp that color in without putting that pressure directly over my pupil area, so then I don't cause the blinking and then it messes me up and I have to clean it off and start all over again. So that is it. Those are my 5 tips for lining mature eyes. I hope that these were helpful to you. And like I said before, I am definitely not an expert. So if you have any tips that have helped you perfect your eyelining routine, please leave them for all of us below. I'm sure they would be greatly appreciated. I know that I would appreciate that. So I thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you very soon. Bye-bye.